Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday as always. I am Lynx, one of your co-hosts tonight. And yeah,
Hello. Hello, everyone.
and
Are
tonight,
we?
are we what? We are live.
We are live.
Yeah, we
Cool.
are live.
Yes, I'm just refreshing my screen.
Yeah,
I can't see us yet.
no,
But yes, there we are.
yeah.
Hello,
It,
everyone.
it's not always the tech follows like you want to.
No, it doesn't always show me right away what we're doing.
No. Uh, well, tonight we are going to talk about princesses in our stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've already accounted quite a few of them in the stories we've told so far. But it is an interesting theme all around. And what we both have discovered is how we encounter the same stories in slightly different versions all over Europe.
It is always the case that you can find connections all over, just everywhere. Connections between Germany and Scandinavia and Romania and France and Belgium and Ireland. There's just so many of these same archetypes that just have inherent meaning to humans just cropping up again and again. I think we have a few stories tonight that are a really good example of that
Yeah,
because they're quite similar to some of the ones that if you've listened to previous streams that you might remember some of these aspects from before. I think particularly there's themes recurring from our heroines episode. Oh, hello, Dandami.
yeah,
Lovely to see you.
yeah. Good to see you as always. Um, yeah, one of your stories is very similar to one I had read earlier, and I did a browse of English stories a few weeks ago, and I saw several elements I've read in other stories kind of mixed up in that, and that was really interesting. Um,
It always is, and I think, it's an established sort of folklore research fact, and you have sort of the attempts to classify the different types, such as the most comprehensive one being the one we always do mention, the Arne Thompson Uther Index. And
mhm.
so that's always a good place to go to straight off if you ever wonder, I wonder if somewhere else has a story like this. Look up what its Arne Thompson Uther type is, and you probably find that someone else, if it's a very old story, has got it too. Yeah, yeah.
I just
So,
remember we didn't discuss what story we would begin with tonight.
yes, what story to begin with? Hmm, perhaps we should go with King O'Hara's daughters because I think it's about the longest one that we've got. So we should probably put it at the start, so that so that we have like sufficient time to discuss stuff at the end.
Yeah, okay. Just give me a second now, and I will find the audio.
O'Hara. There was a king in Desmond whose name O'Hara. he had 3 daughters. On a time when the king was away from home, the eldest daughter took a thought that she'd like to be married. So she went up in the castle, put on the cloak of darkness which her father had, wished for the most beautiful man under the sun as a husband herself. She got her wish, for scarcely had she put off the cloak of darkness when there came in a golden coach with 4 horses, 2 black and 2 white, the finest man she had ever laid eyes on, and took her away. When the second daughter saw what had happened to her sister, she put on the cloak of darkness, and wished for the next best man in the world as a husband. She put off the cloak, and straightway a golden coach with 4 black horses, a man nearly as good as the first, and took her away. The third sister put on the cloak, and wished for the best white dog. Presently he came, one man attending in a golden coach, 4 snow-white horses, and took the youngest sister away. When the king came home, the stable boy told him what had happened while he was gone. He was enraged beyond measure when he heard that his youngest daughter had wished for a white dog, and gone off with him. When the first man brought his wife home, he asked, "In what form will you have me in the daytime? As I am now in the daytime, or as I am now at night?" "As you are now in the daytime." So the first sister had her husband as a man in the daytime. At night he was a seal. The second man put the same question to the middle sister, got the same answer. So the second sister had her husband in the same form as the first. When the third sister came to where the white dog lived, he asked her, "How will you have me be in the daytime? As I am now in the day, as I am now at night?" "As you are in the day." So the white dog was a dog in the daytime, but the most beautiful of men at night. After a time the third sister had a son, and one day, when her husband was going out to hunt, he warned her that if anything should happen to the child, not to shed a tear on that account. While he was gone, a great grey crow that used to haunt the place came and carried the child away when it was a week old. Remembering the warning, she shed not a tear for the loss. All went on as before until another son was born. Her husband used to go hunting every day, and again he said she must not shed a tear if anything happened. When the child was a week old, a great grey crow came and bore him away, but the mother did not cry or drop a tear. All went well till a daughter was born. She was a week old, a great grey crow came and swept her away. This time the mother dropped 1 tear on a handkerchief. She took out of her pocket and then put back again. When the husband came home from hunting and heard what the crow had done, he asked his wife, "You shed tears this time?" "I have dropped a tear," said she. Then he was very angry, for he knew what harm she had done by dropping that 1 tear. Soon after their father invited the 3 sisters to visit him, and to be present at a great feast in their honour. They sent messengers from her own place they would come. The king was very glad at the prospect of seeing his children. The queen was quite grieved, and thought it a great disgrace that her youngest daughter had no one to come home with but her white dog. The white dog was in dread that the king wouldn't have him inside with the company, drive him from the castle to the yard, that the dogs wouldn't leave a patch of skin on his back, but they would tear the life out of him. The youngest daughter comforted him. "There is no danger to you," said she, "for wherever I am, you are, and wherever you are, I'll follow and take care of you." When all was ready for the feast at the castle, the company were assembled. The king was for banishing the white dog, but the youngest daughter would not listen to her father, not let the white dog out of her sight, kept him near her at the feast, and divided with him the food that came to herself. When the feast was over, and all the guests had gone, the 3 sisters went to their own room in the castle. Late in the evening, the queen took the cook with her, and stole in to see what was in the daughters' rooms. They were all asleep at the time. What should she see by the side of her youngest daughter but the most beautiful man she had ever laid eyes on? Then she went to where the 2 other daughters were sleeping. There, instead of 2 men who brought them to the feast, were 2 seals, fast asleep. The queen was greatly troubled at the sight of the seals. When she and the cook were returning, they came upon the skin of the white dog. She caught it up as she went and threw it into the kitchen fire. The skin was not 5 minutes in the fire when it gave a crack, that woke not only all in the castle, but all in the country for miles around. The husband of the youngest daughter sprang up. He was very angry, very sorry, and said, "If I had been able to spend 3 nights with you under your father's roof, I should have got back to my own form again for good, and could have been a man both in the day and the night. But now I must go." He rose from the bed, ran out of the castle, and away he went as fast as ever his 2 legs could carry him, overtaking the one before him and leaving the one behind. It's this way all that night and the next day, but he couldn't leave the wife, for she followed him from the castle, was after him in the night and the day too, never lost sight of him. In the afternoon he turned, told her to go back to her father. She would not listen to him. At nightfall they came to the first house they had seen since leaving the castle. He turned and said, "Do you go inside and stay in this house till morning. I'll pass the night outside where I am." The wife went in. The woman of the house rose up, gave her a pleasant welcome, and put good supper before her. She was not long in the house when a little boy came to her knee and called her mother. The woman of the house told the child to go back to his place and not come out again. "Here are a pair of scissors," said the woman of the house to the king's daughter, "and they will serve you well. Whatever ragged people you see, cut off a piece of their rags. That moment they will have new clothes, cloth of gold." She stayed that night, for she had a good welcome. Next morning when she went out, her husband said, "You'd better go home now to your father." "I'll not go to my father if I have to leave you," said she. So he went on, and she followed. It was that way all the day till the night came. But at nightfall they saw another house at the foot of the hill. Again the husband stopped and said, "Go in. I'll stop outside till morning." The woman of the house gave her a good welcome. After she had eaten and drunk, a little boy came out of another room, ran to her knee, and said, "Mother." The woman of the house sent the boy back to where he had came from, and told him to stay there. The next morning, when the princess was going out to her husband, the woman of the house gave her a comb, and said, "If you meet any person with a diseased and sore head, draw this comb over it 3 times. The head will be well, covered with the most beautiful golden hair ever seen." She took the comb and went out to her husband. "Leave me now," said he, "and go back to your own father." "I will not," said she, "but I will follow you while I have the power." So they went forward that day as the other two. At nightfall they came to a third house, at the foot of a hill, where the princess received a good welcome. After she had eaten supper, a little girl with only one eye came to her knee and said, "Mother." The princess began to cry at the sight of the child, thinking that she herself was the cause that it had but one eye. Then she put her hand into her pocket where she kept the handkerchief on which she had dropped that tear when the grey crow carried her infant away. She had never used the handkerchief since that day. There was an eye on it. She opened the handkerchief and put the eye in the girl's head. It grew into the socket that minute, and the child saw out of it as well as out of the other eye. And then the woman of the house sent the little one to bed. Next morning, as the king's daughter was going out, the woman of the house gave her a whistle, and said, "Whenever you put this whistle to your mouth, blow on it, all of the birds of the air will come to you from every quarter under the sun. Be careful of the whistle, as it may serve you greatly. Go back to your father's castle," her husband when she came to him, "for I must leave you today." They went on together a few hundred yards, and then sat on a hillock, and he told the wife, "Your mother has come between us. But for her we might have lived together all our days. If I had been allowed to pass 3 nights with you in your father's house, I should have got my form back, form of the man both in the daytime and the night. The Queen of Tir na Nog, land of youth, enchanted and put a spell upon me, that unless I could spend 3 nights with a wife under her father's roof in Erin, I should bear the form of the white dog 1/2 of my time. But if the skin of the dog should be burned before the 3 nights were over, I must go down to her kingdom and marry the Queen herself, and it is to her that I am going today. I have no power to stay, but I must leave you. So farewell, you'll never see me again upon the upper earth." He left her sitting on the mound, went a few steps to some bulrushes, pulled up one, and disappeared in the opening where the rush had been. He stopped there, sitting on the mound, lamenting till evening, not knowing what to do. At last she bethought herself, and going to the rushes, pulled up a stalk, went down, followed her husband, never stopped till she came to the lower land. After a while, she reached a small house near a splendid castle. She went into the house and asked, could she stay there till morning? You can, said the woman of the house, and welcome. Next day the woman of the house was washing clothes, for that was how she made a living. The princess fell to and helped her with the work. In the course of that day, Tir Nanog and the husband of the princess were married. Near the castle, and not far from the washerwoman's, lived a hen wife, two ragged little daughters. One of them came around the washerwoman's house to play. The child looked so poor, and her clothes were so torn and dirty that the princess took pity on her, and cut the clothes with the scissors which she had. At that moment the most beautiful dress, cloth of gold, ever seen woman or child in that kingdom was on the hen wife's daughter. When she saw what she had on, the child ran home to her mother as fast as ever she could go. Who gave you that dress? Asked the hen wife. Strange woman that is in the house beyond, said the little girl, pointing to the washerwoman's house. The hen wife went straight to the Queen of Tir Nanog and said, there is a strange woman in the place, who will be likely to take your husband from you, unless you banish her away or do something to her, for she has a pair of scissors different than anything ever seen or heard of in this country. When the Queen heard this, she sent word to the princess that unless the scissors were given up to her without delay, she would have the head off her. The princess said she would give up the scissors if the Queen would let her pass one night with her. The Queen answered that she was willing to give her the one night. The princess came and gave up the scissors, and went to her own husband. The Queen had given him a drink, and he fell asleep, and never woke till after the princess had gone in the morning. Next day, another daughter of the hen wife went to the washerwoman's house to play. She was wretched looking, her head being covered with scabs and sores. The princess drew the comb 3 times over the child's head, cured it, and covered it with beautiful golden hair. The little girl ran home and told her mother how the strange woman had drawn the comb over her head, cured it, and given her beautiful golden hair. The hen wife hurried off to the Queen and said, that strange woman has a comb with wonderful power to cure and give golden hair, and she'll take your husband from you unless you banish her or take her life. The Queen sent word to the princess that unless she gave up the comb, she would have her life. The princess returned as an answer that she would give up the comb, she might pass one night with the Queen's husband. The Queen was willing, gave her husband a draught as before. When the princess came, he was fast asleep, and did not wake until after she had gone in the morning. On the 3rd day, the washerwoman and the princess went out to walk, and the first daughter of the hen wife with them. When they were outside the town, the princess put the whistle to her mouth and blew. That moment the birds of the air flew to her from every direction in flocks. Among them was a bird of song and new tails. The princess went to one side with the bird. What means can I take, asked she, against the Queen, to get back my husband? Is it best to kill her, and can I do it? It is very hard, said the bird, to kill her. There is no one in all of Tir Nanog who is able to take her life but her own husband. Beside a holly tree in front of the castle is a wether. In the wether, a duck. In the duck, egg. That egg is her heart and life. No man in Tir Nanog can cut that holly tree but her husband. The princess blew the whistle again. A fox and hawk came to her. She caught them and put them in 2 boxes, which the washerwoman had with her, took them to her new home. When the hen wife's daughter went home, she told her mother about the whistle. Away ran the hen wife to the Queen and said, that strange woman has a whistle that brings together all the birds of the air, and she'll have your husband yet, unless you take her head. I'll take her whistle from her anyhow, said the Queen. So she sent for the whistle. The princess gave an answer that she would give up the whistle. She might pass one night with the Queen's husband. The Queen agreed, gave him a draught, as on the other night. He was asleep when the princess came, and when she went away. Before going, the princess left a letter with his servant for the Queen's husband, in which she told how she had followed him to Tir Nanog and had given the scissors, the comb, and the whistle, passed 3 nights in his company, but had not spoken to him because the Queen had given him sleeping draughts, that the life of the Queen in an egg, the egg in a duck, duck in a wether, and the wether in a holly tree in front of the castle, and that no man could split the tree but himself. As soon as he got the letter, the husband took an axe and went to the holly tree. When he came to the tree, he found the princess there before him, having the 2 boxes with the fox and the hawk. He struck the tree a few blows and split it open. Out sprang the wether. He scarce ran 20 perches. Fox caught him. The fox tore him open. Then duck flew out. Duck had not flown 15 perches when the hawk caught and killed her, smashing the egg. That instant, the queen of Tir na Nog died. The husband kissed and embraced his faithful wife. He gave a great feast, and when the feast was over, he burned the hen wife with her house, built a palace for the washerwoman, made his servants secretary. They never left Tir na Nog and are living there happily now, and so may live here.
Okay, so that was our first story for this evening. I hope you liked it, and if you watched our previous episodes, I would think that you have heard something similar from us before.
Yes, they will have, certainly. And I think one of the things we've heard about before as well, I think, is that whole business with the Queen of Fairies' hearts being in this sort of elaborate a duck and a weather and inside a tree and an egg. I'm pretty sure we've heard of that as well, just off the top of my head. Just thinking about it. A wether, by the way, is usually referring to a castrated ram, if that
Yeah,
has confused anybody.
I had to look that one up actually. Hadn't heard that one before.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you for
Oh,
the diamond,
very
red-pilled
much. Thank you.
pharmacist. That is very generous of you.
Extremely generous.
Yeah, and I am doing
Yeah.
very well, thank you.
Yes, I'm doing just fine, thank you. Busy weekend, lots of running around. Good weekend though.
Yeah, and I hope everything is good with you as well. Um, I definitely found it fitting that it was a castrated ram in many ways because that is sort of what she did with the man.
Yes, that's quite true. That's quite true. She's robbing a lot of men of their sort of masculine agency and binding them to her with enchantments.
Yeah,
Is one of the things that seems to be the Queen of Fairies' MO, as it were.
yeah,
I guess one of the first things that struck me about this story is initially I found it quite funny that her two sisters have wished for a husband. It's like, give me a sexy husband, please. And she's just gone and been like, yo, unnamed magical forces, can I have the best boy?
yeah.
Like, the the best doggo ever?
You know, first you go, oh, I just want a pretty man, thank you. And the second one, oh, the prettiest man is already taken. I guess I'll take the second prettiest man.
And
And
she's just like, I want a really cool dog.
yeah,
The coolest. And I was like, I mean, I can kind of relate. If you wished for like the best dog and you found out that half of the time it was a man, but like a really fit one, would you be like pleased or disappointed? I mean, personally, in the context of I have a relationship, so I'm not really. I'd literally just like a dog. But yeah.
yeah, that is perhaps a question to ask oneself. But I also think about the symbology of it, being a dog. You know, that is man's best friend. They are loyal. They will protect you. They will be your companion. So
Yes, true.
these things is what she's really wishing for, and she gets that in the form of a man. So that is one interesting aspect of it.
That is definitely you could like take the fact that she wishes for a dog in that she doesn't really think she can find the precise qualities of a companion that she's looking for in any corrupted human man.
Yeah, I have actually discussed this with several women over the years, and
Mm.
we had sort of a discussion of it earlier this summer, in that some women will go for the external trappings like looks, money, status, and everything. But for me
Mm.
personally, it's the man who is in center. You know, it's the man that I fall for. It's not his trappings.
Well, yeah, that makes sort of sense evolutionarily as well, because I think no matter how rich a man is, it really doesn't mean anything if he isn't actually going to stick with you.
Yeah, uh,
That's a thing. So you're
exactly.
looking really for a responsible man.
Yeah, you know, you do want a man that you get along with well, and um, at least I find the inner qualities more important
Yes.
overall.
Offensive username says, I wish I was pretty as that doggo. I know he's so fluffy, isn't he? He's so
Yeah,
fluffy.
yeah, you
I
know,
love I love the big fluffy dogs. Like I would love a Samoyed.
yeah.
It would shed everywhere. But yeah.
I don't actually have a favorite
Mm.
dog, but I do prefer the a bit larger ones
Yeah.
overall.
They're just nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. But another aspect that I find interesting in this story, I mean, of course we have the symbolism of dogs. And they're important actually, in Old Norse. You know, there's been dogs, and dogs won't attack Odin. That's sort of established as canon in Norse mythology in the Poetic Edda. And so they've got a mystique around them because, of course, you know, they used to be wolves. And another animal which crops up in this tale is, of course, the crow. Now, that one's quite significant in Ireland, particularly, because when it comes to the Anglo-Saxons and the Norse, the special bird is sort of the raven for the most part, but crows are actually very associated with the Morrigan in Ireland, who's sort of a death and serenity goddess whose name translates to Great Queen. And she did have dealings with mortal men. She famously offered herself to Cuchulainn, the great Irish hero, who rejected her and sort of apparently very much damaged her pride, leading to his ill fate. Or that might be a bit unfair to blame that on the Morrigan. It might not have actually been her fault. It might just have been predestined. And like this crow is coming to steal children, obviously on behalf of the Fairy Queen. And I'm wondering if there's sort of like a merging of Morrigan and the Fairy Queen there. It's very interesting.
yeah. That aspect caught my eye as well, and uh, a couple of years ago, I started reading The Song of Ice and Fire, the book series that Game of Thrones is based upon. And I came across a discussion, quite heatedly actually, about the difference between crows and ravens.
Mm.
Because they are very similar, but in the book they are portrayed quite differently.
Well, I keep having this debate in my head because I've been seeing a lot of big black birds around
Yeah,
lately,
yeah,
and I can't decide whether they look crowish or ravenish.
yeah.
I just can't. I keep looking at them and going, is that a raven? Is that a crow?
I think it's
There can't be
mostly.
this many ravens.
I'm not sure how many they are gathered in one flock of ravens, but I think they are distinguished by being bigger than the crow.
Mm.
That is the
Yeah.
main difference. Um, but I'm not really sure what the difference is with the symbology, considering it's a very old tale, I have to admit.
I don't really think there's much difference in the symbology because if you look at ravens, well, they're messenger birds thrown in, but he's associated with death, and he is king of the Norse pantheon, and ravens generally go around still associated with death, but so are crows.
Yeah. Um,
I just think you get them symbolizing much the same thing as big black birds. Um, Wherever one happens to be the most prevalent, and we don't know. Of course, ancient drawings might not be able to tell whether it is a crow or a raven that someone has drawn.
yeah. Personally, I feel that ravens are a bit more positive than crows. Um,
Mm.
my personal connection seems to be a bit that they are more of a helper, where the crow is
Yeah.
more of a bad omen, so to speak. Um,
I mean, in
but
English, we literally call a group of crows a murder of crows.
yeah,
So that is something that shows they do have pretty negative associations.
yeah, that is quite distinctive. Distinctive. Ah, I can't speak tonight. Distinctive word for it. Um,
Mm.
but I'm not sure if the crow is taking the kids for the fairy queen or if it's for the husband, to be honest, because
That's true.
the children aren't
They
taken to
turn
the,
up.
yeah, they're not in the underworld, they are on the road to the underworld. And as
Mm.
we saw in King Valamon the White Bear from a previous episode, they were,
Yeah, it might be a plan that the husband has, or it might at least be a compromise that he can work with.
yeah, um in King Valamon, it was King Valamon who placed the
Mm.
children along the route in case his wife would fail him and find out who he was. Um, so he placed the children at 3 old crones, and his wife came across them, everyone, on her search for her husband, and they helped her on the way. And it's not quite the same in this story as they walked that road together, but it is similar. And each of the crones give the daughter or the wife gifts that she uses to gain
Yes.
access to her husband later on. So it is very similar, but slightly different as well. Um, and also with the gifts, both the scissors and the comb, um, they are tools for helping. And
Yes, and a whistle is a tool for calling for help.
yeah, so I found that quite an interesting contrast. And also that the whistle will summon birds because they are sort of transcendental beings, symbolically traversing between the earth and the mind and the soul and the underworld. And they, of course, aren't bound to the earth, so they know more, they can find more, they can see more. So And it's also a very common motif in of folk tales, uh, with birds being messengers, and we have so many versions where they're able to talk and give advice and everything like that. So I feel like they are sort of a help from beyond, so to speak.
Yeah, that seems to be their role in a lot of stories. You always get them giving sort of advice to main protagonists or lending help in that way. And they do tend to have knowledge that you couldn't necessarily know unless you were seen in the future or the other world or something of that sort. They
Yeah,
seem to observe everything.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
they see the hidden things. Like the bird in this story knows where the heart of the fairy queen is, and how did he find that out? That is one of my questions.
Yeah. I suppose nobody notices birds, and they're just sort of everywhere. And so people maybe looked at them and thought, wait, how much do they know?
Yeah, sort of a variety of being a fly on the wall.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
No. But we
Um.
sort of see the same sort of thing as King Valnon as well, in that she rescues him in a very feminine way, by showing devotion, by giving care to the children, by giving up her gifts just
Yeah.
to see him.
Yeah.
And that's the same sort of thing.
Yeah. Complete loyalty.
Mm,
What we see
absolutely.
in all of these stories, it's very similar to East of the Sun and West of the Moon as well. And what we see there is the mothers sort of messing it up. Um,
Mm, yes.
but it's in the Norwegian tales, it's a bit hard to see if that is the women being stupid, uh, yeah, in quotation marks, and not just follow blindly. Whereas in
It usually seems to be then being not trusting in the Norwegian tales.
well, my take on that is that it shows that it can be very naive in being completely trusting, because we also have many stories of uh, princesses and women being troll bound, under the spell of trolls. So the mother's worrying about that is natural in that context.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these stories are
Yeah.
also to teach about real life, and that is a danger all women have to learn at one time or another in their lifetime. So and it's also a bit about exploring their own agency. Granted, the feminine principle is often completely passive, but at the same time, it's also a choice they have to make consciously. And choices like that aren't made lightly. And I think that is what the stories are showing. They consciously have to make a decision. I want this man. This is the man of my dreams, and I want to spend my life with him. And they have to go after that.
That is true. And I think it overall could be looked at as a lot about just commitment
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship and
Yeah,
how it takes that and it takes devotion to work through hard times.
yeah,
And then at the end of it all, even in the face of literal magic, something that has effort put into it and is fueled by love and devotion works. Yeah.
It brings in the concept of developing the animus in yourself. The main principle within the feminine.
That is true. And I was actually reading a Jungian analysis of the other fairy tale that I have personally tonight. And I hadn't really factored it into my analysis of this one. But yeah, she's sort of going out there and sort of developing a sense of independence and problem solving.
No. Yeah. And I have a song on the bird theme with a hen wife. That is a bit interesting to be a hen wife. Is she in charge of the chickens or something?
Yes, she is in charge of chickens, and they're generally considered, well, they are basically, I think, a very stupid bird.
Yeah.
They're pretty much the opposite of anything that a bird should be.
Yeah.
They're not wise, they don't fly.
And they are domesticated, unlike the
Yes.
other birds.
And therefore, she's one of those people who doesn't recognize a good person when she sees them. She's just preoccupied with scoring points with whoever happens to be currently in power.
Yeah.
Even though that person helped her children.
Yeah. And the duck contains the egg with the heart. That is essentially a free bird, but one that can be sort of domesticated, or at least they can be they can get used to humans.
It's true, they're kind of a halfway, domesticated or not. Depends on what type of duck you're talking about.
Yeah.
This one has certainly been captured and contained.
Yeah. And I do have one more point about the princess's mother. In that she seems to be very like the two older sisters, very concerned about appearances. She doesn't have a problem with her two eldest daughters having handsome men by day, but they are seals at night. But she does have a problem with her youngest daughter having a husband who is a dog by day, but the most beautiful man during the night. And we don't hear about the other two princesses having children. So I do wonder how that transpired. Is the two other union less fruitful?
Well, fertility always, of course, and when that happens, is often associated with the night.
Yeah.
So she's chosen to have a dog in the day and a man in the night, which I suppose is more conducive to that romance.
Yeah.
Because typically we are always associating sex and the night.
Yeah, it is something that is done under the covers.
Yeah, so it probably explains why their union is indeed more fruitful. And I suppose that means she's chosen priorities based on something other than appearance circumstances, I guess,
Yeah.
because the sister's husbands appear nice and normal and presentable for their parents, but she actually gets to spend time with a man in the evenings. And
Y-
that's probably more valuable than just the arrangement looking okay to the parents.
Yeah, definitely. Another point of that is how a mother can sabotage her daughter, even if it's not really
Even though
meant.
it's not intended, yeah.
Yeah, you could say that she wants the best for her youngest child, um, and wanting her husband to stay a man by burning the fur. But in the end, that messes things up for the daughter instead. So
Yeah, it's sort of like it's not said whether she does that intentionally, but yeah, I think it probably is.
yeah, the way I read it was that she doesn't want her daughter being married to a dog, naturally. So when she sees that
That's a bit
he,
much, really.
yeah, but when she sees that he is a man, then it seemed to me that she wanted him to stay a man by burning the fur so he couldn't change back to a dog. Uh, but she didn't really think of the consequences or the reasons behind. Oh, good evening, Fearless Bear,
Oh,
and thank you for hosting
hey,
us. That is very nice of you. Thank you.
thank you indeed. Yeah,
Yeah,
really interesting story there,
yeah,
and certainly a lot to say.
yeah. And it's also interesting that in the end it is the manly principle who will
Mm.
have to sort out the situation in how that the trolls, no, I'm sorry, the fairy queen, in the Norwegian stories, they were trolls.
Yep.
Um, but it's the masculine principle who has to take them out in this story and in King Valemon the White Bear, while in East of the Sun, West of the Moon, um, it is the feminine principle that is still in play.
That is true. That is true. Things ultimately, the combat side of things gets passed over to the masculine in this one.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you very much for the donations, offensive username.
yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. We have, um, we should probably go next with maybe the second longest story,
Y-
which would be the 12 Dancing Princesses slash the shoes that were danced to pieces. It's got either title.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds exhausting, to be honest, being one of those
Yeah,
princesses.
no, but
Uh,
out every night. Well, I think in some versions it does explain, but we shouldn't give too many spoilers. We
no,
shouldn't give too many spoilers.
no, just give me one
But yes,
second and I will find the audio. There.
shoes that were danced to pieces. Once upon a time there was a king who had 12 daughters, each one more beautiful than the others. Their beds were all together in one room, and when they went to bed, their doors were all locked. But the next morning their shoes were always danced to pieces, and no one knew where they had been, how. Then the king proclaimed that whoever could discover where they went dancing each night could choose one of them for his wife and become king after his death. However, anyone who attempted this but failed to make the discovery after 3 nights and days forfeit his life. Soon presented himself. He was well received and escorted to the anteroom to the 12's bedroom. He was given a bed there, told to watch where they went and danced, so they would not be able to do anything in secret. Go out to some other place. The door to their room was left open. The prince fell asleep, and when he awoke the next morning, 12 had been dancing. Their shoes all had holes in their soles. The same thing happened the second and the third evening. His head was chopped off. Many others came to try this risky venture. They too all lost their lives. Now it happened that a poor soldier, who because of his wounds could no longer serve in the army, was making his way to the city where the king lived. He met an old woman, who asked him where he was going. "Not sure myself," he said, "but I would like to become king, and discover where the princesses are dancing their shoes to pieces." Said the old woman, "That isn't so difficult. Just do not drink wine. One of them will bring you in the evening." Then she gave him a cloak and said, "This on, you will be invisible, and you can follow the 12. Having received this good advice, the soldier became serious, took heart, went to the king, and announced himself as a suitor. He, like the others, was well received, and was given royal clothes to wear. This evening at bedtime, he was escorted into the anteroom. Just as he was going to bed, the oldest princess brought him a goblet of wine. He secretly poured it out, lay down, and after a little while began to snore, as if he were in the deepest sleep. The princess heard him and laughed. The oldest one said, "He could have spared his life as well." Then they got up, opened their wardrobes, chests, and closets, took out their best clothes, made themselves beautiful in front of their mirrors, all the time jumping about in anticipation of the dance. However, the youngest one said, "I'm not sure. You are all very happy, but I'm afraid something bad is going to happen." "No use," said the oldest one. "You are always afraid. Had you forgotten how many princes have been here for nothing? I wouldn't even have had to give this soldier a sleeping. He would never have." When they were ready, first approached the soldier, but he did not move at all, and as soon as they thought it was safe, the oldest one went to her bed and knocked on it. It immediately sank beneath the floor, revealing a trap door. The soldier saw how they all climbed down one after the other, the oldest leading the way, jumped up, put on the cloak, and followed immediately after the youngest one. Halfway down the stairs he stepped on her dress. Frightened, she called out, "It's not right. Something is holding my dress." "Don't be so simple," said the oldest one. "Just caught yourself on a hook." Continued until they came to a magnificent walkway between rows of trees. Their leaves were all made of silver, and they shone and glistened. The soldier broke off a twig in order to prove where he had been. Aloud cracking sound came from the tree. The youngest one called out again, "It's not right! Did you hear that sound? That has never happened before." The oldest one said, "That is just a joyful salute. They are firing because soon disenchanted our princes." Then, to a walkway, trees were all made of gold. And finally, to a third one, where there were clear diamonds. He broke a twig, each of these. The cracking sound frightened the youngest one each time. But the oldest one insisted that it was only the sounds of the joyful salutes. They continued on until they came to a large body of water. 12 boats were there, and in each boat was a handsome prince waiting for them. Each prince took a princess into his boat. The soldier sat next to the youngest princess, and her prince said, "I am strong as ever, but the boat seems to be much heavier. I am rowing as hard as I can. Must be the warm weather," said the youngest princess. "It's too hot for me as well." On the other side of the water, there was a beautiful, brightly illuminated castle. Joyful music, kettle drums and trumpets sounded. Rode over and went inside. Each prince danced with his princess. The invisible soldier danced along as well. When a princess held up a goblet of wine, he drank it empty as she lifted it to her mouth. This always frightened the youngest one. The oldest one silenced her every time. They danced there until 3 o'clock in the morning, when their shoes were danced to pieces and they had to stop. The princes rowed them back across the water. This time, the soldier took a seat next to the oldest princess in the lead boat. He took leave from their princes on the bank and promised to come back the next night. When they were on the steps, the soldier ran ahead and got into bed. When the 12 tired princesses came in slowly, he was again snoring loudly. "He will be risk to us," they said. Then they took off their beautiful clothes and placed their worn-out shoes under the beds, and went to bed. The next morning, the soldier said nothing. He wanted to see the amazing thing once again. He went along the 2nd and 3rd nights, and everything happened as before. Each time they danced until their shoes were in pieces. The 3rd time, he also took along a goblet as a piece of evidence. The hour came when he was to give his answer. He brought the 3 twigs and the goblet. 12 princesses stood behind the door and listened to what he had to say. The king asked, "Where did my daughters dance their shoes to pieces?" He answered, "In an underground castle. 12 princes." He told the whole story, brought forth pieces of evidence. When they saw that they had been betrayed, and their denials did no good, they admitted everything. Then the king asked him which one he wanted for. He answered, "I myself am no longer young, so give me the oldest one." The wedding was held the same day. The kingdom promised to him following the king's death. But the princes had as many days added to their curse as they had spent nights dancing with the 12 princesses.
Okay. I had to unmute myself there. So that was our second story. And an interesting one it was.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sort of picked up on that one because obviously it's a show about princesses this week, and there's a full 12 of them in that one.
Yeah. That is quite a lot of princesses in one story.
Hard push to get more than that
No.
in one story. A lot of princesses for your money.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, not exactly fleshed out, but there are a lot of them.
yeah, if they were going for a higher number, it would have to be 18 or 24, and that might be a bit
Mm,
excessive.
too many.
Yeah,
Too many for one story.
yeah, 12 is more than enough.
Mm. But that is a very common type of story. Um, it's Arne Thompson Uther type 306, which is called um oh, I forgotten what it's called, but it's a lot of them, and they're all about shoes getting danced to pieces, or at the very least, the sort of disturbing of forbidden trysts or forbidden sort of unions in the underworld, because there's a Punjabi one as well where it's very a similar sort of idea where a girl goes away to dance with Indra every night. So that's sort of story which is across not just Europe but also general Indo-European area. So I feel like it must be very old and very common, really.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
The
Uh,
Brothers Grimm learned it from their friends the Haxtausens, who heard the tale in Münster. So that's where they got it from personally. And of course, you know, uh, this is a Brothers Grimm fairy tale, so the princesses don't care very much about men being put to death on their behalf. Absolutely not. Pretty standard.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had a question from Jay Wilson about
What do we
the
do?
number 12 and its
Oh yes.
significance. And one thing that tends to reoccur in our stories is 12 plus 1. You
Hmm.
know,
That number,
yeah, um,
which could be lucky for some.
yeah, I don't remember the English title now, of course, but oh, Sleeping Beauty. It's called Tornerose in Norwegian. And there we have 12 good fairies and
Oh.
one who places the curse on the princess because
Yes.
she wasn't invited. So we have 12 plus 1. And here we have 12 daughters and
Hmm.
one king. So,
I mean, you have 12 months and you have 12 zodiac sort of signs, main constellations.
yeah, and that also ties it into Blue Moon.
Hmm.
The months are, back in the day, they were based on moons, but sometimes there will be a full moon twice in 1 month. So, that is 12 plus 1. Um, it also brings to mind leap year, but that might just be what I associated with. I can't,
I get you.
yeah,
And
it's something extra, 12 plus something extra.
it's also a multiple of three, which is
Yeah,
cropping up quite a lot in this tale. 3 nights to do things, three tries, three types of trees.
yeah. It is the triad, and it's 3 times 4, and 4 is a very stable number. It creates a
Hmm.
rectangle or a square. Um, so it's sort of an inactive number in many ways, and then it adds another, which gives it some movement, so to speak. You know,
Hmm.
2, 4, 6, 8, and everything, they are considered um, very static. For example, in anything artistic. But when you use 1, 3, 5,
Mm.
7, then it creates movements because it's not
Yeah.
divided by 2 in any way. So it creates a focus point
Mm.
and movement.
I suppose 9, therefore, is not really considered very static at all.
Um, no, I wouldn't think so because it's 3 times 3.
Yeah.
So
So it's interesting with 12.
yeah.
I mean, they're also meeting 12 princes as well.
Mm-hmm.
12 of their masculine sort of shadow counterparts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I thought it was worth an honorable mention that one of the first things that comes up when you Google this fairy tale is someone who finds it to be an excellent analogy for infosec and policy. And it's like, I have been so inspired by this fairy tale, I realize now it was also obvious good infosec strategies are three-pronged, and they rely primarily on good monitoring of policy adherences.
Yeah.
You see, the princesses broke the rules, but the soldier was monitoring for data breaches and realized there was a back door, and he stopped the policy breach. And I was just sat there going, well, isn't it wonderful how our ancestors wrote this tale specifically in order to guide us in the ancient ways of good data protection,
Yeah.
looking for good information on a fairy tale. And I don't know, that article was just like, oh my goodness. Is there nothing middle management can't ruin?
Yeah, exactly. It seemed more
Please
like
leave my fairy tales alone.
yeah. It seemed like
Leave
more that he
them
had an idea and he wanted an interesting way to present it.
Yes. Ugh. Thank you very much for the diamond, Damdammy.
Yeah, thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Yeah.
But it was just, I'm just out there trying to find out about a clearly ancient tale, and someone's looked at it and gone, huh, GDPR.
Yeah.
It's like, what sort of mind do you have to have? Oh, goodness.
Yeah, it's not always good to say.
Yeah.
One thing that struck me with this tale is that the king is alone with 12 daughters. So,
Yeah.
and
That's a lot of unbalanced feminine energy.
yeah, and that will grow as they get older. And we see him locking them in at night, wanting to have a control on that feminine. But he's not able to, he's not strong enough, so to speak. Um, and that reminds me of Shiva and Shakti, where, Shakti is the goddess and she is destroying the world by dancing. While Shiva
That is
is,
true.
yeah, and Shiva is sleeping. But when he wakes up, he becomes a lightning rod for that Shakti energy. She won't stop dancing, but the energy will be more focused. And the king is no longer able to do that. He's not strong
Yeah.
enough to be that lightning rod for that
Mm.
energy.
Yeah, and Shiva, of course, is very important that he's functioning properly because he creates and destroys, and he's sort of responsible for a life-death renewal cycle, as I understand.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. We don't see the princesses actually ruining anything by their dancing, but as they are dancing in the underworld, that points to their dancing being associated with death.
Hmm.
So it's,
That is true.
yeah, so it's more of an understated thing, more than explicit. Uh, and also that
Yes.
is an old soldier that manages to find out what they're doing. Uh, that means he's an old warrior, and he knows discipline and self-discipline and a shrewdness of mind and everything that's associated with that. So he is able to. The story finishes, frankly, before it's possible to really say, but it seems like he starts to break up that dynamic between the daughters and the king.
Yeah, he does add just a bit more masculine energy into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a marriage that is sort of symbolic of resolution, marriage of heaven and earth, sun and moon, god and goddess, and so it's representative of balance, I do think. But yeah, I was looking at sort of Jungian analysis of it, and they were sort of talking about it basically being the 12 princesses being a metaphor for one female anima,
Yeah,
trying to sort of balance itself. And as part of it, the eldest, who wants to stay in a land of make believe, while the youngest sort of acknowledges reality and everything that is impinging upon the sort of fantasy world.
yeah, it was interesting how we meet the eldest and the youngest, but none of the daughters in between.
Yeah, they were calling it undifferentiated parts of the psyche.
Yeah,
So I think two specific parts of the hypothetical one psyche are having trouble integrating and getting on with one another. Uh, and I don't know also if, like, what would have happened if the king had decided, like, not to lock his daughters in a room. Like, what
yeah,
started first, the dancing or the being locked in a room?
yeah. It's
Presume the dancing.
a chicken and egg situation there.
Yeah.
Is it like we saw in the other story? A parent wanting to keep their child safe and wanting the best for them. But with the masculine principle being a bit too harsh by locking
Mm.
them inside. So, is it that he wants his daughters to be safe and not really wanting them to grow up into women?
Yeah, but that's not something that can actually be stopped.
No.
They can't really be insulated from that. And I think he's trying, and obviously he's failing.
Yeah. You can only
But
bottle
yeah,
up energy for so long before it runs out.
one thing I find interesting about this one is usually princesses persisting against parents to break the curse of their prince is seen as a good thing in these
Yeah.
tales. But in this case, it is something that is thwarted, and the princesses don't get to have these princes which would have fully balanced sort of all of them would have, given all of them a masculine influence in their lives.
Yeah, again, there we see a parent wanting to do what's best for the children and inadvertently making things worse.
Hmm. Yeah. Which means it might not really, per se, in that way, have much of a happy ending, that one.
Yeah, but the page you found it on had several versions. One
Hmm.
version had 6 princesses with 6 princes in the underworld, and 5 of the princesses denying that they're going to the underworld and dancing, and they are all beheaded. And
And then one
yeah,
who actually messes up.
yeah, he gets the rescuer as she gets the rescuer as husband. But it's also mentioned that if the princess willingly let themselves losing their heads, then they will be free of the curse. But it's not said if that
Yeah.
actually happens. But there was also another version, a Danish version, which was
Hmm.
quite interesting because it's a blend of this continental flavor of our stories combined with the Scandinavian flavors of having trolls in it. Um, because in that story it is one princess and she goes dancing with a troll every night. And she is troll bound. And the young man who rescues her goes down afterward and kills the troll. And he brings a thimble, a golden thimble, from the princess and collects 3 drops of blood from the troll. And he lets 1 drop of blood fall in all 3 parts of the woods, and it turns out that the woods are actually enchanted people. A whole nation being enchanted by that troll. And
Oh,
as the rescuer of that enchantment, they choose him as king. So he basically gets 3 people out of it, and the princess. So that was a very interesting version of it.
that is very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is indeed story time, yes.
Yes. Every
We
Sunday
do.
night.
Yep. Every single Sunday evening from 8 till, well, whenever we get tired of talking, usually.
Yeah, usually. For the most part, it's somewhere between 1 and 2 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh,
Have one final one for
yeah.
tonight.
That is another
Hmm.
Norwegian story about a princess who cannot be dumbfounded.
I
Um,
like this one. I find it funny.
yeah, it was one of my
I think
favorites
it's a good
growing
laugh.
up. Yeah, definitely. It was quite funny sitting reading it time and time again. Um, and I will
Yeah,
just get rid of this one.
indeed. We hope you enjoy.
Yes, enjoy. If it wants to open, of course. The princess no one could dumbfound. Once upon a time there was a king. He had a daughter who was so quick of tongue and clever with words that no one could dumbfound her. Therefore, the king promised that a suitor who could do just that would have the princess to wife and half the kingdom besides. There were many suitors, I would imagine. After all, it is not every day you have the chance to win a princess and half a kingdom. The gates of the king's palace didn't stay still from this time, as the suitors came in droves from east and west, some riding and some on foot. But none of them could get the better of the princess. After a while, the king made it known that those who tried but did not succeed would be branded on both ears with the king's great branding iron. He didn't want all these people in his courtyard for no good reason. Then there were 3 brothers who also had asked about the princess. As they didn't have too much going on at home, they decided to go out and try their luck to see if they could win the princess and half the kingdom. They were good friends and much of the same mind, so they took to the road together. When they had been on the road for a time, Askeladden, the youngest one, found a dead magpie chick. "Look what I found, look what I found," he called out. "What did you find?" his brothers asked. "A dead magpie chick," he answered. "Ew, throw it away. What would you do with that anyway?" the other 2 said. They always considered themselves the wiser. "Oh, I have things to do, I have things to plead, I can plead this," Askeladden said. When they had walked a bit farther, Askeladden found an old hoop lying on the road, and he picked it up. "Look what I found, look what I found." "What have you found now?" his brothers asked. "I found an old hoop." "What would you use that for? Throw it away," the 2 said. "Oh, I have things to do, I have things to plead, I can plead this," Askeladden said. They continued on their way, and after a little while, Askeladden found a potsherd and picked it up. "Boys, look what I found, look what I found," he said. "Now, what have you found?" the brothers asked. "A potsherd." "Oh, as if that is anything to hold on to. Throw it away," they said. "Oh, I have things to do, I have things to plead, I can plead this," Askeladden said. A little while later he found a crooked ram's horn, and shortly thereafter he found its twin. Look what I found, lads," he called out. "What have you found now, then?" the 2 others asked. "2 ram's horns," Askeladden answered. "Oh, throw them away. Whatever will you use them for?" they said. "No, I have things to do, I have things to plead, I can plead these," Askeladden said. A little while later he found a wedge. "Hey guys, look what I found, he called. "There are no end to your findings. What did you find this time?" the 2 elders said. "I found a wedge," he answered. "Oh, throw it away. What will you use that for?" they said. "Oh, I have things to do, I have things to plead, I can plead this," Askeladden said. As they were crossing the fields to the palace, which had recently been manured, he bent down and picked up a worn-out shoe sole. Well, well, lads, look what I found, he said. "If you could only find some common sense before we get there," the 2 said. "What did you find this time?" "A worn-out shoe sole." "Ugh, as if that is anything to pick up. Throw it away. What will you use that for?" his brother said. "Oh, I have things to do, I have things to plead, I can plead this. If I'm to win the princess and half the kingdom," Askeladden said. Yes, it looks like he'll do just that, they said. Then they arrived at the palace, and they gained admittance to the king's daughter. The eldest went first. Good day, he said. Good day to you, the princess answered, twisting in her seat. It is awfully warm in here, he said. It is warmer in the embers, the princess said. There lay the great branding iron, ready and waiting. When the eldest brother saw that, he was immediately at a loss for words. And that was the end of his luck. It did not go better for the middle brother. Good day, he said. Good day to you, the princess answered, and twisted in her seat. It is terribly hot in here, the brother said. It is hotter in the embers, she answered. He too was at a loss for words, seeing the branding iron. And so it came out once again. Then it was Askeladden's turn. Good day, he said. Good day to you, the princess answered, and she wiggled and twisted in her seat. It is nice and warm in here, Askeladden said. It is warmer in the embers, she answered. She was not happy for the third one coming in. Would it be possible to roast my magpie in there? He asked. I'm afraid she'll burst, the king's daughter said. Oh, that's nothing to worry about. I'll fasten this hoop around her, Askeladden answered. It is too wide, she said. I'll drive in this wedge, Askeladden answered, and took out a wedge he'd found. The fat will run off her, the princess said. I'll hold this underneath, he answered, showing her the potsherd. Your words are crooked, she said. No, I'm not crooked, but this is. He took out one of the ram's horns. I have never seen anything like it, the princess exclaimed. Here is one that looks just the same, Askeladden said, producing the other ram's horn. I think you have worn yourself out, trying to get the better of me, she said. No, I'm not worn out, but this certainly is, he answered, taking out a shoe sole. The princess had nothing to say to that, and so she was dumbfounded. Now you are mine, Askeladden said, and so he got her to wife, and half the kingdom besides. So, that was one of my favorites as a kid, and I hope you enjoyed it. That is something of a theme in Norwegian stories, actually, with princesses that are somewhat. They don't really follow the norm. Like this one, she couldn't be dumbfounded because she she was very quick with her words. And we have another one with a princess who don't laugh, and stuff like that. And instead of her father, the king, wanting to force anything on her, he wants to find a suitor who is worthy of her, that can match her. And I definitely agree, like that theme.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one as well. Like, because she is clearly an intelligent woman, and he's not underestimating that.
No.
Also, I can't help but think he's getting quite annoyed. It's like, she is literally never at a loss for words.
Yeah.
Please, I will give half the kingdom to somebody who will make her shut the heck up.
Yeah.
Please,
You know,
I'll do it.
these people can get on your nerves in the long run. So, the name of that story was The Princess No One Could Dumbfound. Um, I
And
use
that's the translation from the Norwegian name, isn't it?
Yeah. I usually do my own translations, but there is one website that do have translations. They're a bit different from mine, but they are quite good. I will try to
Yeah,
find the link and give that
yeah,
later
that's
on.
good. I can update the description with that
Yeah,
once this is uploaded and everything, because it's always good to have it written down to go over it again.
yeah, it
I
is.
just I really like how Askeladdin um like finds value in things that his brothers just don't. You know, seemingly useless things, he comes up with really unorthodox ways to use them and sees opportunities where other people don't, which his brothers claim they're the wisest, but I feel like that's the definition of genius.
Yeah, definitely do. Um, you know, and when I first hear that story, the things he finds doesn't really tell you anything about how he will be able to dumbfound that princess, make her
No,
lost for words, but he is able to see a continuation between these things, and he might not have a clear idea on how to do it, but you know, oh, I can use this. I can make something out of this. Um, so I do find that very interesting, and but at the same time, considering how he's acting, he might have that plan in his mind all along.
yeah, because he says, you know, well, might not think it's of any use, but you know, I've got things I'm doing.
Yeah,
I can use this.
yeah, and after he finds the shoe sole, you know, oh, well, I have all this, so I'm going to win the princess and half the kingdom. And his brother going, yeah, right.
Banfrick wonders if this dude is the true Viking.
That may be the case. It does actually,
Resourceful.
yeah, it does sort of remind me of the skalds making their poetry in the sagas and all of that, because they didn't use writing. You know, they didn't take notes or anything. They all had the story in their mind, and the form that takes is often by code words or descriptions or not mentioning what they're actually talking about. So they have to keep that line of thought all the way through. So I think it's a sort of a callback to that tradition, even though
Yeah.
that for the most part died out after the Black Death. Um,
I wonder what was so pivotal about the Black Death that stopped it.
um,
Maybe nobody had time to be writing any complicated stories.
uh,
They were a bit dizzy,
it
busy
might,
disposing of corpses.
yeah. The written tradition was cut off at that time because it was the monks who were able to write it down, and they also tended the sick. So they were all of the monks were basically wiped out. But
Ah, yes.
yeah, but I'm sure the tradition continued orally in all of the small villages and everything. But of course, it will change over time. Um, and then we had Asbjørnsen and Mo who went around in the 1800s collecting all of these stories, and
Oh,
they were all oral stories before that. They weren't written down, so it has passed from one generation to the next for hundreds and thousands of years. And
so are they like Norwegian Brothers Grimm?
yeah, they are. They weren't brothers, of course, but they
Different
base
surnames.
yeah, but they basically did the same. Um, but they changed the language somewhat because the different dialects can be very different from each other. So they changed it into more like the official language, which today is called
Mm.
bokmål. Um, and we also have nynorsk, New Norwegian, which is more based on different dialects, whereas bokmål is based on Danish in many ways.
Yeah. I'm sure also that the Brothers Grimm would have had to put the German stories into Hochdeutsch because you just like it's sort of you might be able to understand a Bavarian's accent, but that doesn't mean you're going to understand someone from Dresden.
Yeah,
Quite different. It's quite different.
yeah, I do think that is the case in many places. Um, yeah,
Norsk, Bokmal. I had no idea about these types of Norwegian here.
uh, well, it's an ongoing fight in Norway still. Um,
Mine is the true Norwegian. No, mine.
yeah,
This is like the English dispute about scone versus scone, but on steroids because it's the entire language.
yeah. um,
Uh,
I'm from Eastern Norway, so for me it's natural to speak or to read basically bokmål because it's very influenced by that dialect. But I guess you can ask whether the dialect came first or if that's based on the written language, which had a Danish root, being on the Denmark for 400 years. Um, but nynorsk is more based on dialects on the west coast and in the middle part of the country. So it's the continuous fight against who has the true Norwegian. I like both. So um,
I kind of like. I really like regional sort of dialect variants. They do make things interesting.
yeah, I definitely hope they continue.
Mm,
Because
yeah,
it's something distinctive, and I think we should preserve that as best as possible. Um,
yeah. One thing I think about that story is also the importance of keeping one's head.
yeah,
Like the other brothers just look at the iron in the fire. They're like, "Oh no, yeah, I'm freaking out." And then consequently, they do end up getting their ears branded. Ow, ouch! It's gotta hurt.
yeah,
It's
uh,
really gotta hurt.
yeah. It's also shows a bit about knowing your boundaries. They thought they could do it with no problem, being very confident, and then they can come in there and see the branding iron and just, okay, I have nothing to say to that. And she's basically
Yeah,
just saying that the embers are warmer than the room. Um, and I think that is an interesting theme in and of itself because it sort of reminds me of burning hell because the room is very hot. Um, so it's basically, facing evil in many ways and being tested in that way. So uh, I do find that an interesting thing in the theme. Because in the stories we have of people defeating the devil or tricking the devil, they all use their wits. You know, it's not based on strength or anything like that. It's you have to outsmart them. Like I also mentioned in our episodes on trolls. So
Yeah, true.
it's the eternal lesson of you have to keep your wits and be smart about things.
Thank you for lemons and ice creams, people.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. Yeah, but just one last thing I think about this story. And it's probably the least profound point, but it's kind of a good demonstration of how having conversational starters leads you less likely to get stuck in a totally dead end conversation
Yeah.
with someone. So it's also a very good social analogy. But I don't want to sound too much like the infosec dude when I say that,
Don't go into the
because
infosec trap.
yeah, like no, ancient stories are never an analogy for data protection. They didn't have GDPR.
No.
It wasn't a thing. But yeah, but socializing has always existed, and so therefore I think that's maybe possibly more of a valid lesson to take away from it. Like, you know, people like confidence and people like you to have sort of things and interesting things about yourself
Yeah,
to
and
say. And he's
uh,
got quite a collection of tidbits.
yeah, he does. This seems like he is collecting everything he comes across, so he will need a big house in the end.
Yeah, a bit of a hoarder, our Asgard,
Yeah,
might have to have a little clean out one of these days.
yeah. Ooh, I can use this one day. You know, I don't know for what, but you know, I'm just going to keep it.
Askeladden, king of the Mandraw.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
what he is.
yeah, definitely. Um, but it's also pointing that you can always find your match, and you might not realize who that match is going to be. With all those men coming to the king and trying their luck with the daughter, they aren't able to. Um, and it might be that they're thinking, oh, she's a woman, so I will manage that. I can charm her. And no, I'm not saying this in the feminist way at all. um, but
It's not really often that you would find a woman who's particularly like that. She's a
no,
bit unusual.
yeah, she is. She is unusually clever. Um, and then it is the guy who, you know, knows his limits and collects things. Yeah, in this case, things, but you know, um, conversational topics he can use to get through that. So he's a bit more prepared. He sees a bit further than many of the others, I would say.
Yeah, he certainly, like, the others seem to be having no real forethought, and this guy seems like he's playing 7D chess. He's got some sort of strategy involving a dead magpie, a wedge, a ram's horn, a loop,
Yeah,
and everybody's quite understandably like, what in the heck are you gonna do with those? Don't pick up that dead bird, mate. It is gross.
yeah,
And he's like, you don't understand the complex matrix of factors that I'm working with here.
yeah,
His brain is just like, maths lady meme.
yeah,
But he's not actually confused.
No, he's not.
Shall we do the chest? I think
Let's.
we should do the chest.
Yeah, let's do the
Gonna add
chest.
some lemons.
Ooh,
Okay,
I'm
plus
not.
some lemons.
I'm not going
How many
to.
lemons should we put in the chest? We should put. I think we put. Should we put 150 lemons in the chest?
Sure, why
We
not?
got some lemons. We'll put 150 lemons in the chest. Okay, so submit those. Now they're in the chest. And there's 157.8 lemons in the chest. Oh, thank you for the flower doll. Little Peppy flower. Okay, let's open this chest. Distribute rewards. Right Meow's hosting us.
Ah,
Oh, thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.
Distribute the chest.
Yes.
Ooh, who's getting lemons?
And
Oh, new followers.
yeah,
String of new followers.
welcome
Etherin.
everyone.
Episode 5.
Yes, here we have story hour every Sunday.
Oh, it's Basot. Thank you for the diamond. Thank you lots.
Thank you.
Ah, doesn't matter, you're late. We're always on the replay. We're always on the YouTubes.
Yeah. Ah, good to see
Down
everyone.
Dammy, Fearless Bear, and Ithrin have, whose name I'm not sure I'm pronouncing right, have all gotten lucky on the lemons. Down Dammy has got 154 lemons. Fearless Bear had 88.9 lemons. Ithrin, 64.6, which doesn't add up to 150, but the lemons seem to have gotten more in the chest.
Hmm.
I think because someone donated. But yeah, the lemons got more. There's 307.8 lemons in the chest apparently.
Mm.
I don't know how they got there. Mysterious lemons.
Yeah, mystery
I'm still
lemons.
not sure how D-Live works,
Neither do I.
especially with these lemon thingies.
Yeah. Ah, I
Nobody knows how it is correctly said.
Yeah.
Even I don't know for sure.
No.
Okay, Ephraim.
Congratulations to all the winners for tonight. As we
I
now
did
have.
150 twice. Okay, we put 300 lemons in the chest.
Oh.
Oh. Must have been my touchpad. Oh
Yeah.
well.
Your
Generous lemons.
yeah. That touchpad of yours is quite interesting. Thank you for the diamond, Red Pill.
Ooh,
As we
thank you.
have new people here, I think thought I would just mention our streaming
Yes.
times. That is every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. No, it's 3 p.m. Eastern time, I think. Yes, it is 3 p.m. Eastern time. 8 p.m. GMT and 9 p.m. CET. So we will be here every week with a new theme and new stories for everyone who wants to have a break from all the politics and bad things in the world and just take a deep dive into our old European culture.
Yes, I can see we've got quite a lot of new people about. Welcome to another Dave, Jupiter 5, Airthrin, Banfrick, Seaman Captive 45, Alex Kills Die, DMH10, Dolt. We are very happy to have you here.
Yes, welcome everyone.
Hello, Bob and White Healing.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh,
Yeah.
7.8 lemons. I wonder how they divide all of them. I always thought I would distribute them whole, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems to have point lemons.
Yeah, apparently so. And
fractional lemons.
And thank you, Besot. That is very kind of you to say. I'm glad
Oh,
you like it.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that Pepe before. I'm always on the lookout for rare Pepes. Yeah. Well, that's all of our stories for tonight, folks.
Yeah.
And if you have missed the start of the stream, one can rewind it. It's up on the YouTube. It's captured as a replay. It goes out to Periscope now as well.
Yeah.
So we have it on Periscope. I don't
Yeah.
know if Periscope does replays.
Yeah, they do. As far as I know. Also we have a Twitter and a Telegram where we update for our shows. So and we also
Mm-hmm.
post links to the stories we tell. So please follow us on either Twitter or Telegram. All of our links are in the description.
Yes, we do have half a Europa channel on Telegram. We post the artwork from our Halloween stream there. We post stuff that we find interesting.
Yeah.
So do subscribe to that and follow us on Twitter. We shall try to post interesting things.
Yeah, and we're also thinking of posting the stories we tell as separate videos. So
Mm-hmm.
that might be interesting to check out.
Yes, that is something we would quite like to sort of round up for those who are interested in maybe playing some stories for. I think probably older children with a lot of our stories. The older stories do tend to get a bit gory.
Yeah,
But you want to just the stories to play and relax to for yourself or someone else, then that would be a thing that we're looking at doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just have to learn video editing first.
Oh yes, yeah, that. Yep,
Yeah,
coming to this whole thing from like a non-techie background is just like learning curve.
yeah,
But yeah, we're gonna get the hang of some stuff
yeah.
and then start doing more.
We definitely jumped into the deep end of the pool there. But you know,
A little bit.
it's fun to learn, and personally, I work best in practice. So
Hmm.
I can't always figure out what I don't understand until I try it. So
Yeah.
hmm
Well, thank you very much for watching, everyone. We hope you've had a good evening. We hope, or a good afternoon if you're one of our Americans. It might be afternoon for you,
yeah,
whatever time of day that it is. And we hope you continue to have a pleasant evening.
yes. Hope you have a nice ending to the weekend. And of course that your weekend have been good up until now. So we hope to see you again next week, and good night.
Good night, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.